One more question from the sister's side. What advice would you give young girls and boys about their attire and appearance while going out and with regards to imitating others?
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ba'd. Since this is in the category of nasiha, so that I advise myself and everyone to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to strengthen our belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you find yourself having some form of a ilhah, push from your own self to commit a sin or to imitate others and not the Prophet ﷺ, the most important thing is to know that there's a disease in the heart. And that disease is because of the weakness of al-Iman, the weakness of one's tawheed. So the person needs to get to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with His names and attributes. Al-Islam is to submit yourself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala willingly. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the owner of all things. So we have to have izzah and honor and dignity in the truth that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to the Prophet ﷺ. And the question specifically talks about the attire and what people wear and things like this. Everything we have deen in it and we have guidelines for us to follow. And the awrah is clearly stated in the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. We don't choose the time that we live in. And that's why some people, with their patience with the obedience of Allah, the rewards are multiplied as the time, as the Prophet ﷺ said, a time would come unto my ummah, al-qabidu fi ala dinihi kal-qabid ala jamratin min nar. The one that holds fast to his religion is like holding fast to a hot coal. And the environment that a person lives in affects him. So if you imagine that you go back at the time of the companions radiallahu anhum, if someone would go outside of their home with an inappropriate clothing, or a woman goes out of her home without hijab, or the hijab is not appropriate, would she ever dare to do this? Of course not, because she would be, of course the consequences of this is very severe, but she won't even emotionally be able to do that because she wants to fit in. But this is not why the believers, they do things. So the point here is we have evidences in the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ that shows us what to wear or what not to wear and the limits that we need to go about. And that's why for the clothing to be acceptable, of course to cover the awrah of men versus the women, there is a general thing for both is to stay away from imitating what is special for the disbelievers, something that is special for them, not something that is wide common among everyone according to the laws of the deen. Then it's not permissible to imitate that specific clothing that they wear. And with that is being said, for example, the clothes not to be tight, and that's both for men and women. Men and women should not wear very tight clothes. And of course, what is special for women is for both of them not to be transparent when it comes to showing the awrah. And for the woman with the rulings of the hijab from the head to toe and to cover herself, and not for the clothing itself to be adornment. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most wise. He tests people with what they like and what they dislike. Women, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned them in the Quran, أَوْ مَن يُنَشَّأُ فِي الْحِلْيَةِ وَفِي الْخِصَامِ غَيْرُ مُبِينٍ. They love to adorn themselves, and Allah knows this. That's why we should not, and they should not deprive themselves from beautifying themselves, but in front of the maharim. And this is the test, not in front of the whole world, in front of her husband, her parents, the ones that are maharim. This is actually perfectly justified. But the test is not for everyone. So to observe the hijab, and for the men also not to imitate the ways of others, and to have the honor and dignity again in the deen of Islam, and to follow the way of the Prophet ﷺ. We don't have something called Islamic clothing for men. As long as the guidelines, there's no isbal, no under the ankles clothing, it's not tight, it's not transparent, and it's not special clothing for the disbelievers, then this is permissible for men. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide all of us, inshallah, to what is right. And we need to have that environment where it gets you to feel the sense of belonging, so that the person doesn't have to be affected by others. Wallahu a'lam.